There's a fantastic meme about the life cycle of an artist, and I'm proud to say that it is 100% accurate. Now in my 40s, I am officially an old weirdo with a home studio, and I love it. To celebrate this momentous occasion, I'd love to show you my own journey of creating this art space and what I've learned along the way. It's taken 20 years. But over a couple of decades of dreaming, doubting, and doing piece by piece, I finally have the creative sanctuary I've only ever seen in my Delulu daydreams. And if you enjoy carving and crafting a space of your own, I'd love to share this with you. Welcome to my whimsical workspace. Welcome to ArtsyMamaBee, where creative living meets inspired growth. This is the first episode in my new series called Creative Corner. In this video, you'll see how we tackled the big move from suburban Sydney to the sandy beaches of Hervey Bay, setting up a clean, organized space that inspires creativity, turning my art room into a homeschool classroom and a tutoring space for my online business, tips for creating art supplies, storing equipment, and making the most of your space. The final studio reveal, including my favorite features and a look at my essential tools and equipment. So whether you're an artist looking for studio setup ideas or someone interested in organizing and transforming a room, this tour is packed with practical tips and inspiration you can use to create your own creative space. Our journey began long before 2022. Back in 2018, we found a piece of land in a quiet coastal town over 1,200 kilometers away from our hometown we've known since childhood. It was probably the closest we've ever felt to the way our parents did when they migrated to Australia to start fresh. Like many families around the world, the great upheaval of 2020, you know what I'm talking about, reshaped our lives in ways we couldn't have predicted. With my incredible mom by our side, we made the decision to pool our resources together and build a multi-generational forever home. 3 generations under one roof. Well, technically 2, as my mom lives in her cozy little granny flat next door. We let go of so much. We culled our belongings, donated what we could, and gifted the rest. Packing up more than just boxes, but also memories, attachments, and old routines. After a 12-hour journey that was really around 16 hours, we arrived in this new, unfamiliar place to start over. The transition wasn't without its challenges, of course. The sorting and resorting, the goodbyes, the quiet ache of missing loved ones and friends left behind. But in shedding what no longer served us, we made space for something beautiful to grow. This chapter has been filled with learning, healing, and unexpected things that happened. If you're standing at the edge of your own big change, scared, unsure, or hopeful, know this. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to begin again, even when the map is unclear. Settling into our new place was extremely exciting. Everything was open to possibilities. The only thing that was challenging was obviously cleaning everything. The whole cleaning process was quite a long and arduous one because even though the builders left it ready for us, it was still quite dusty. So there was a lot of sweeping, dusting, and mopping to be done before I could arrange my office just as I wanted. We were very lucky that because I already had the previous space in our old place, everything that was there fitted in quite nicely into this new place. It was just arranged in a different way, and to be honest, there was a lot more space available, which made me extremely happy. My old bookshelves from back when I was in my 20s came with us, my filing cabinet. I inherited 2 folding tables from my husband, and I made sure to use one as my office space, which has my computer and all my tutoring needs there, and the other table is allocated for art. The second challenge was that after everything was polished and clean, I then had to take in all the boxes and unpack everything. Decided what needed to stay in the room and what could be put into boxes in the garage for storage. After about a month and a half, I finally had the room arranged exactly as I wanted, and I was so happy with the results that I just thought, I'm glad I filmed everything, because one day I'm going to make a video about my art studio, and here we are. So welcome to my art studio. Over the years, I've built a small mismatched library, an ever-growing collection of art books, classic novels, biographies, memoirs, and philosophy texts. Some of them are from my university years, but most of these I found in op shops, each with a past life and a price tag under $5. I've never exactly counted how many I own. I've probably read about 20% from cover to cover, and the rest patiently waits like quiet companions on my lifelong to-be-read shelf. Some people collect figurines, others collect antiques. I collect books, not for show, but for shelter. I've never punched anyone over a rare edition. No shade to Labubu fans, but I do understand the thrill of finding something that speaks directly to you. Books have quietly saved me. In moments when life felt uncertain, stories reminded me of possibilities. Ideas helped me refrain failure. Memoirs made me feel less alone. Reading saved my life. I really don't know what the future holds, but I know that I want to read as much as I can before I leave this world. Not really to impress anyone, just to keep learning, healing, and becoming. So if you've ever felt behind, lost, or unsure, if you crave direction or simply want a moment of meaning, I invite you to consider reading. I'm thinking of starting a little series where I reflect on some of the life-changing books that have helped me and shaped my thinking and soothed my soul. If you'd be interested in that, write book nook in the comments below, please, and I'll get right on top of it. Really, it's less about reading everything and more about letting the right stories reach you when you need them. That's why I keep these books. Like many families, we began homeschooling during the long, uncertain lockdowns of 2020 and 2021. When we began homeschooling, it wasn't a part of a grand plan. It was simply the best choice in a turbulent time. So like so many families, lockdowns reshaped our days. What started as a temporary response to school closures slowly became something more intentional. Since then, life has handed us both challenges and gifts. An interstate move, a rocky school transition, and in 2023, my cancer diagnosis. All of it nudged us towards a slower, more flexible way of learning together. It wasn't an instant or easy decision. We had questions, we made adjustments. We also heard plenty of unsolicited advice. Some kind, some curious, some based on old stereotypes about homeschoolers being unsocialized or sheltered. In reality, though, homeschooling looks different for every family, and ours is far from isolated. So let me preface this by saying that homeschooling isn't for everyone. But for us, it works because both my husband and I work from home. My part-time hours allow for flexibility in the day, and our son learns best when his natural curiosity leads the way. We use the national curriculum as a guide, but adapt it to suit his interests. So right now he's reading Wonder by R.J. Palacio. That book has led to deep conversations about kindness, difference, and empathy, which then took us into human biology and genetics, and eventually to watching The Elephant Man, to explore John Merrick's life. Learning also happens beyond our walls. Like a typical week might include karate, swimming, art classes at the gallery, maths tutoring and writing workshops with his tutors, Spanish lessons with his grandma, cooking and gardening lessons with his Lola, park play days and Minecraft hangouts with his homeschool and neighborhood friends, theater visits, zoo trips, and the beach. So essentially, our eclectic approach blends different educational philosophies. For example, in the earlier years, we used Reggio Emilia, valuing creativity, collaboration, learning through exploration and expression. Later on, we used Montessori learning or learning philosophy, which is a hands-on, self-paced learning using real-life tools and experiences. This usually revolves around our son learning at his own pace and pursuing interests that he chooses. So right now, as my son gets older and he gains more autonomy in his own learning, we are using mainly the Waldorf schools approach. So this learning philosophy is one that fits our family at this stage because it promotes an emphasis on liberal arts, and the goal is to awaken the creativity and talents that already lies within our child. By balancing academics with art, nature, rhythm, and imagination, it suits our son because his interest leans in that direction. Finally, we also use the developmentally appropriate practice, or DAP, which means matching learning to a child's stage, needs, and interests rather than forcing a one-size-fits-all pace. This is an approach I also use in my own academic coaching because after nearly 2 decades of tutoring, I've noticed that a lot of the students struggle because everyone has a different learning style and learning pace. So catering to that allows any learner to thrive. We're not aiming for perfect days. Some are messy, some are magic, But we've found a way of living and learning that gives us more time together and more space to grow. So if you're curious about the details, what our days look like, what resources we love, or how we handle the challenges, I'm happy to share more. When we were starting out, hearing real stories from other families made all the difference. Maybe ours will do the same for you. So just comment hearty homeschool below and I can make an in-depth series about our homeschool journey. At 19, I was living in my own apartment, working full-time in the vocational education sector and also part-time at a video store. It was the best job I ever had, but I did all this just to stay afloat. I was doing everything I could to hold on to my independence and also help my family as much as I could. What started as a gap year after high school turned out to be 4 years of full-time work. And while it gave me stability, it also gave me clarity that I didn't want to stay on that path forever. So after 4.5 years of working 2 jobs, I left my corporate job and kept my part-time job and enrolled in a double degree in visual arts and education. It was one of the scariest decisions I'd made and one of the most important. University wasn't just a place to get a qualification. It became a space for self-discovery. I studied, I made art, and I paid attention to who I was becoming. By my second year after doing teaching placements, I realized something that took courage to admit. Working as a classroom teacher wasn't the right fit for me. It didn't feel like where I could truly thrive and contribute. So I decided to change my direction yet again. I switched my major from education to philosophy and I started preparing to start my own tutoring business once I graduated. Looking back, I'm reminded of something I now hold close. It's never too late to change direction and pursue a life that aligns with your true self. We're often told our paths must be linear, that success comes from ticking boxes and following a blueprint, but I've learned that growth is often messy and non-linear. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to start over. You're allowed to listen to the quiet truth inside you and to really trust it. For me, self-discovery unfolded slowly, shaped by work, uncertainty, and the courage to pivot. I had to let go of what looked stable in order to grow into something more meaningful. Studying visual arts, education, and eventually philosophy wasn't just academic. It gave me language, perspective, and a way to reimagine what was possible. And when I couldn't find a system that aligned with my values, I created one. Not out of rebellion, but out of intention. I've always loved creativity, but for years I placed it on hold. Like many others, I chose the practical path, working jobs that supported my family and offered financial security. And honestly, I'm glad I did it. Those years taught me discipline, resilience, and the importance of service. They shaped me, and they helped me build the life we have today. So now at 41, after navigating failure, rejection, and more self-doubt than I care to admit, I've finally found a rhythm that feels right. I run a tutoring business rooted in creativity, autonomy, and purpose. It's not wildly lucrative, but it's deeply aligned. It sustains our simple lifestyle, it reflects our values, and it gives me space to keep growing. I'm still learning, still refining, I'm still creating, but I'm doing it on my own terms, and for that I'm really grateful. So if you're on a path that feels unclear or non-linear, I just want to say you're not behind, you're not lost, you're simply in progress, you're becoming. And now we come to my favorite part, my art studio, my sanctuary, my sacred mess. It's part office, part archive, part creative playground. I like to call it functional maximalism, but some might say it borders on hyper-organized semi-hoarding. I love the eclectic decor, the mishmash of kitschiness, and how my taste has been forever shaped by watching Amelie 4 million times. Every shelf, pinboard, and surface tells a story. My trinkets, books, photos, old film memorabilia, nothing is random here. Each piece is a memory capsule. And if you pointed to anything in the room, I could probably spiral into a full tale about its origins and likely veer into a philosophical tangent about its meaning. So this is where my inner archivist and my inner artist meet. This is where everything I've lived and loved quietly gathers. And then there are the plants. Oh, the plants. What began as a casual hobby has now taken root, literally and figuratively. So since moving from suburbia to a slower-paced coastal town, I've fully embraced my life as a plantita. That's Tagalog for a plant-loving auntie. I've never expected to find such deep joy in the slow, subtle magic of watching new leaves unfurl. But here I am. There's something profoundly grounding about it, how these living things respond to time, care, and attention. It's just like art and just like life. Now my home, and especially my studio, feels like a small, thriving jungle. It's alive with creativity, memory, and growth. And it's not just a workspace. It's my visual autobiography, a growing archive of who I've been, who I'm becoming, and everything in between. This space isn't always super neat. It does get quite messy at times, so I have to make sure that I allocate some time putting everything back to its original space to avoid clutter. My old pantry is now a supply closet, which houses my unused notebooks, canvases, and other art materials. I also keep my camera and old postcards and letters here, treasures when snail mail dominated the world. The filing cabinet really needs a clean, actually. I have this idea in my mind that I'll eventually use all these magazine, newspaper cutouts, as well as old encyclopedia pages for future art. I thought it'd be quite funny to list my artistic interests in no particular order. So as I said, I've been doing art for as long as I can remember. My first love, of course, was drawing as a child. Then I moved on to photography, ukulele, stop motion animation, block printing, painting with mainly acrylic, but also in watercolor and gouache. I really want to improve my oil painting skills. And I want to learn how to make mosaics and resin art. All of these things are in the works. I keep all my art supplies in categories. These plastic cubes have been with me for ages. I really think that having your little materials in separate containers makes things easier to access and also really convenient to know where everything should be put away when you get new materials or when you're trying to put things back. I've installed caster wheels to these cubes so I can store it under my desk and easily access them when I need any of my supplies. I definitely recommend having specific categories if you are a multidisciplinary artist, and many creatives dabble in so many sorts of things. So just to keep your sanity and to keep your space as organized as possible, it's best to have them in separate boxes or in separate containers. I keep my unused paint supplies in this retro suitcase. So if I ever need new supplies, I can quickly have a look what I have in stock. A lot of these are gifts from my friends and my family, so I really haven't had to buy any materials for quite some time. On the weekends, to wind down, I like to put an old DVD and have it play in the background while I spend my free time doing art. It really helps to calm and relax me and get me ready for the new week ahead. This little art studio, library, classroom, and office space is definitely the heart of our home. If my soul were a room, I think it would look like this. Full, a bit messy at times, but always packed with sentimental stuff and good memories. It's far from perfect, but honestly, it's the most comforting place for me. Anyway, that's my little sanctuary. I'd love to hear from you. What's your space like? Do you have a room that makes you feel at home or a little creative corner that you have? Drop a comment below and let's chat about it. Also, if you enjoyed this and if it resonated with you, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more creative vibes and to help my channel grow. Thanks again for hanging out with me today. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. See you next time. Bye. Hi guys, if you enjoy creative living, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.